Welcome back to Booze Bros and Cars, your favorite podcast about booze and cars, and we are your hosts. I am Eric.
I'm Mike.
I'm Carmelo.
And I'm Nick.
All right, so first up, what we're going to talk about is, of course, it's going to be the beers that we're going to be drinking tonight. So I've got two lined up for today. I've got one from Prairie Artisan. It's actually a sour beer. This is actually called Watermelon Girlfriend. It's a sour ale with watermelon, sea salt, orange, lemon, and lime. Sounds really interesting. And the second beer I'm going to be drinking tonight is going to be from Dogfish. It is Wake Up Worldwide Stout. This is actually really good. I've tried Worldwide Stout before. It's actually a really good beer, really boozy. Looking forward to drinking that one later on tonight. Mike, what do you got tonight?
That's such an interesting combo. A nice, bright, citrusy sour beer followed by like a 14% Imperial Stout. That's like your style.
YOLO.
Tonight I'm just going light. I've been hot all day. It's incredibly hot outside. So this is a newer beer from Riptide Brewing Company in Bonita. This is called Geezer Pleaser. Actually, it is it's a lager. Used to be a blonde ale. They changed it over to a lager. Pretty funny can label on it.
Like
but,
Santa.
Yeah. Pretty much. Santa chilling in a raft. Yeah, but. And then if I run out of steam on that one, I got a nice bright Ace pear cider from California to crush down after that one. So we'll see. Carmelo, what are you drinking?
All right, so I'm doing something a little different. Instead of going beer like we normally have, I'm going to go with some mead. It's BA Rocket Fuel from Ology. Something a little different, a semi-local meadery brewery out of Tampa. And then for my second drink, a unique pairing. I don't know if you guys have ever had it. Buddy of mine came back from Italy about 10 years ago, lived there for a year or two, and talked to me about Emeraldo di Serona and Red Bull, an old favorite of mine, and something a little, light, sweet for, the hot summer we've had. So that's what I'll be drinking. Nick, what you got tonight?
Nice. Interesting.
So also two stacked up tonight. They're both beers. One is not a liquor-based drink this time. I'll talk about the second one first. Little Great Lakes Christmas ale. We had it stashed away. I'm a little late for Christmas in July, but I'm going to crack this open about halfway through whenever I finish the other one and enjoy a little bit of holidays here in the summer because, as everybody's mentioned, it's brutally friggin' hot and uncomfortable down here.
Florida things.
The other is a semi-local. They're based out of Tampa. They got a shop in Bradenton as well. It's called Magnanimous Brewing. This is their all that remains Galaxy. It's a double dry hopped, double IPA with Galaxy hops. And the cool thing about them is pretty much like 95% of the IPAs they make, which is their primary style, are all hazy. So they kind of mellow out a little bit. They're all anywhere from 7.5 to like 9.5 ABV. I'm not actually sure what this one is. But these guys are great. Definitely a bit of a smaller operation. So far, you can only buy it, I think, from either of the breweries. And it's just a great experience every time we go there. And my kids love their brewery cats. So there's that, too.
Nice. I think you were talking about them last week, weren't you?
Yeah, because I kind of prepped it that I was going to have some of that this week for the podcast because we brought back a handful of 4-packs. One for one of my co-managers of the dealership that we kind of do a little beer swap. So I got him a 4-pack variety and in exchange for those the jalapeno IPAs that I had last week from Cleveland.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. All right,
We're going to be up in Tampa this Friday, so I'm pretty excited. Probably hit some breweries while I'm up there and bring back some beers. Maybe we can.
Nice.
Got to hit Garage East because
I know
they're closing soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I don't know if we're going to get to St. Pete, though, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I mean, just starting out with this mead from Garage East, it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
nice.
I love their shit.
If you can make it up there, do it.
Yeah,
meat is really good.
I'm probably going to join their bottle club before they go under so I can get some shit.
I'm pretty sure I have a bottle in my fridge out in the garage, actually. So
I think I've got one like Carmelo does, one of the little guys still.
Oh, nice.
I think I do, too.
Meat is super good. We actually tried to make meat a couple years ago at Nick's house. We got to try to do that again. we kind of failed, but we got to try to do
but we got to do it at like Mike's house or someplace with an internal room that we can control the temperature.
Yeah.
I don't have that here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I know that air
The
temps
yeast
is a
has
big
some
thing.
problems running at almost 80 degrees during the day.
Yeah, that's not good. All right, so I want to get your guys' thoughts on a couple things. Me and Carmelo were kind of brainstorming just before the podcast, and we want to know your thoughts on the new Toyota Land Cruiser. So,
I mean, personally, I'm a fan so far. I mean, I was with Toyota for only a few months. I truly believe they make some solid product, and I've seen all the people post up the comparisons of some of the OG Land Cruisers and how it looks like the different models of this new one coming out. But to me, it screams resurgence of the more recent FJ Cruiser in a good way. Yep. I mean, the front end, the big square, funky mirrors, but now a true four-door. Everybody keeps trying to say that, in the industry, it's trying to compete with the Bronco, compete with the Raptor or the Wrangler and stuff like that. I don't think that's the case at all. I think really it's going to impede on 4Runner sales and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm all for the competition. I think it looks great.
I'm gonna pull up the image on here right now. So yeah, I mean, this is Toyota's website. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with Nick. I mean, it is kind of like a throwback to the FJ, but to me, it kind of is going in trend with a lot of the other off-road vehicles these days. I mean, look at the Bronco now from Ford that came out, and it's kind of a cool throwback design on it. So, I mean, it kind of seems like it's fitting the trend. There's a lot more people these days in the overland community. So I think this kind of fits the standard, but elevates it a little bit to another level. So.
Yeah, I saw something interesting, which is that depending on the trim level, the front end is going to be different. So that's kind of cool. How they actually have
headlights and different grill and stuff.
Yeah, different headlights.
So it's going to be kind of cool.
It'll be either the rectangles on the low end, and the circular on the high end, and the Heritage, or the Heritage and the Release.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering what trim levels they were going to come in, but yeah, like the one with the circle headlights, I guess a higher trim level one, that one actually looks kind of cool. I can see myself rocking one of those.
It does. So I'm a little skeptical of this, and I'll explain why. The first thing is it's on the GX platform or on the new truck platform that's underpinning everything, including the new GX. Second, Nick, you brought up a good point. It's going to impede 4Runner sales. But from what I understand, the 4Runners with four-wheel drive start in the low 40s, and they're going to try to maintain that. This also doesn't have a third row, and the 4Runner has an optional third row.
Oh, it doesn't?
Yeah,
no. Really? I did not realize that it did not have a third row. That seems like a mistake.
It does, especially with the higher price point of I'm going to assume $55,000. A Toyota themselves have said mid 50s, so I'm going to assume $54,900 plus delivery or with delivery. But at that price, it's a good looking truck. I don't like that Toyota or a lot of the press that's with Toyota is comparing it to the last 200 series. Oh, it's almost half the price. This and that. Well, it has a lot less features, which is what people want. I mean, me as a guy who likes trucks and overlanding and off-roading or trail riding, this is right up my alley. But when Toyota's like, oh, it's $40,000 less than our last one, it's significantly smaller. It doesn't have the same trims options, at least standard. It's well equipped, but I don't like how Toyota's trying to poise themselves like they're doing us a favor when in reality they just didn't want the Land Cruiser to compete with the LX anymore. And Nick, you know better than all of us because you sold that.
Well, and one of the things that surprises me is the no third row. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future we see the flip-up jump seats like the most recent Land Cruiser had.
Right, how they used to, in the GX
right, we could fold them and flip them up to the side. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see that in the future.
Of course.
Because, I mean, that's kind of a traditional Land Cruiser kind of thing. So, I it's kind of surprising that they wouldn't have that. I understand not having a traditional third-row bench, but to not have those back there seems a little silly and a bit of a departure. That doesn't cost a whole lot. I mean, it's a couple seats with some brackets, you know what I mean? They weren't power or anything that I remember. So, I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
what motor are they looking at for this? Does it vary based on the trim?
No, it's the 2.4 hybrid. One of their, I believe it's an IMAX. That's going to be in the Tacoma. So basically, this is the new upcoming Tacoma and the upcoming GX with the SUV body, and it's a unique. Instead of them just putting a cap on it and some welds, they made it unique, and I think they made it good looking. It's retro, almost like last week we were talking about Hyundai. What they're doing and how they're bringing back the retro throwbacks, and I like it.
Yeah, so I just pulled it up real quick. So it is going to be the turbocharged 2.4 liter 4-cylinder hybrid. Delivers 326 horsepower. And this part's crazy. This little engine puts out 465 foot-pounds of torque.
Oh, wow.
So
if it's going to be hybrid, is it going to be an all-wheel drive too?
Yeah.
So
no, it's going to be 4-wheel drive with a front and center locker. I know.
So
here's
my concern: is you've got a 2.4 liter turbo hybrid that's pulling 5,800 pounds. That thing weighs almost 6,000 pounds. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be a big old.
I feel like
big old heavy turd.
I mean, it could be because of the weight, but I mean, with the hybrid motor, so obviously it's going to have like electric motors. So I'm assuming that when it's having to tow some of that, depending on, because like every car has like sensors now, like on the wheels, especially like if it's all-wheel drive, so it might be like a torque vectoring thing. So like depending on how you're driving it, you may not feel that sluggish because it's probably going to kick in like the electric motor, so actually kind of help the car drive a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, remember, in terms of that lack of feeling sluggish in response, it's all about torque. Power doesn't matter. Power doesn't matter at all in that aspect. So that's a healthy amount of torque. And when you get electric motors in play, it's instant torque as soon as you want it. So, and the other thing too, about like overlanding, the weight and stuff, it's going to be a low center of gravity because any battery packs can be sitting low. I wouldn't be surprised, and this might be part of the no third row because the Sequoia hybrid, everybody hates the third row. There's no room because it sits up high, almost like a theater sitting, because the hybrid batteries underneath. Like my buddy Slim passed on his. It was like a $90,000 like max TRD Pro. Because the third row sucked ass. And he was like, I can't do this. This is just terrible. And he actually passed on it and picked up a Kia Telluride instead. Because it just fit everything they needed better and made more sense. So I wouldn't be surprised, though, if that's what they do with some of the battery packs is run them under and into that third row space. And that's probably why maybe it doesn't have the third row back there.
I mean, looking at some of the videos that I watched, there is a high floor. So that could be it. I was thinking it was for the rear end. There's an electronic locker. The trans, there's a case locker as well. So
I would say that could be the reason if it was a unibody, but if it's running on like a ladder type chassis with a truck, it's going to be, that's all going to be below that. So I think that's what it's going to be, is hybrid related shit.
Okay.
Interesting.
I mean, it's definitely interesting,
Yeah. I like it. I'm being frank. I like it even as a Ford person right now. I think it's pretty cool looking.
So I'm looking on a different website. I'm looking on, I think it's the Drive. It says that there is going to be also a 3.3 liter twin turbo diesel V6 and a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 gas V6 available for global market.
Okay,
we won't get the diesel.
Stateside.
Yeah.
Not stateside.
Yeah, and that 3.5 is the same engine that they're running in the Tundra, so that's not surprising at all. And
the 3.3 twin turbo diesel would be pretty badass, though.
Yeah,
it would be. But Americans, we
hate diesels for some unknown reason.
I know. Once again, America gets left out of the fun stuff. It's usually how it goes.
They don't want us rolling coal. That's why.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we do enough of that.
Yeah. All right. So another car that's kind of like a throwback type of car is the Nismo 400Z. Do you guys see that? I mean, essentially, it has like a slightly different body than just a normal 400. Obviously, it's gonna have like some Nismo bits on it. I think the body track is a little bit wider, if I'm not mistaken. But from what I've seen so far, the test mules have only been automatics. So there's actually a theory saying that the Nismo 400Z is going to be an only automatic vehicle, which is going to kind of suck.
Yeah, and so that one seems strange to me, right? Because
for sure,
every 350, every 370, previous generation Nismos of all sorts, as far as I know, have been probably forced manual half the time. I get that the GTR was never a manual, even a Nismo trim. And I kind of understand that the new Z is basically running like a GTR type engine with the twin turbo V6. So maybe it has something to do with that. Like maybe they're throwing basically a GTR transmission in it. I mean, that would be pretty cool. But I feel like you're just killing it for the purists that want to rip this thing on a track and drift it and stuff like that. It just seems like a weird decision.
No, for sure.
Coming from the Volkswagen.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right, so coming from the Volkswagen world, we had the same. There was the same issue back when I had my GTI. Is the U.S. or North America were the only markets that ended up getting manuals for the GTI and the Golf R for the Mark 8s, and there was a couple other Volkswagen former VAG group companies that, or models rather, that did that. I mean, we're seeing that in Porsches. We're seeing that even in the later model R8s. I don't believe they were available manual if you got the V10. So I think just worldwide, ironically, the U.S. was the first to distance themselves and buy more automatics, but we're one of the few markets that still buys manuals compared to the rest of the world because the dual clutches, even the ZFs, have gotten so much better than shifting. People see the performance gains and don't care so much about rolling their own gears anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. Like, it would make sense. It does make a lot of sense. Automatics are faster than manuals when you're talking straight line speed drag racing. But for a car like the 400Z, I think it was designed basically for enthusiasts. You know, this is Nissan's entry level, you know, back trying to get back into the game, rear wheel drive with a manual for performance enthusiasts. My biggest problem with this whole thing is that, the regular base model 400Z is still really, really hard to come by. I'm not, Nick, you probably know better than I do, even though I know you're not really in the Nissan circles, but it just seems like everything that I hear it's impossible to get, kind of like the GR Corollas. So I'm just wondering why they're coming out and trying to tease the market with a Nismo version of a model that they can't even get to market with the base models.
And then the secondary concern with that is with everything else that's coming out special, what are the dealer markups going to look like? What is the availability? Like, how hard are they going to be for your normal enthusiast? You know, I think you're just going to end up having a bunch of YouTube stars and personalities and rich guys that just want to say they've got this thing, throwing out 30, 40, 50K markups to buy the damn thing and just keep it around and do whatever. That's one of my new concerns with a lot of this stuff is how that's going to affect this, right? Like you said, your typical enthusiast may not be your multimillionaire. You know what I mean? Like, those guys are buying 911 GT3s, right? Like, don't screw this up for those of us that, want to be able to afford this $60,000, $70,000 car or whatever. You know what I mean? Because for a lot of people, they can't afford a toy like that. That's going to be their daily driver. So that'll be the next problem.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can only imagine how much the markup is going to be and the final price is going to be, because these are targeted to be like right around the $60,000 range. So if you throw like a $30,000, $40,000 markup on it, it's
six figures, man. People are going to pay six figures for these, 100%.
Yeah. It's like, so going back into like the whole markup thing, I don't know if you guys remember this, but do you remember the BMW, I think it was called the 1M? Do you guys remember the 1M? It was like that super limited edition series. Okay. So there was like a few dealerships because that car was like a $75,000 car when it came out. Like, it's stupid rare. I think it only came out for like 1 or 2 years. There was a few dealerships that actually had like $25,000+ markups on them, and it turned a $75,000 car into a $100,000 car, which is ridiculous. So a lot of like enthusiasts that were looking for that limited production vehicle were never able to buy it because of those markups.
Yeah,
which sucks.
No, I mean we're still seeing it right now in the industry.
Yeah.
I'll admit my dealership on some real specialty stuff still does it. Like, if we somehow get our hands on a Raptor R that isn't a custom order for a specific person, there's a markup. Broncos have all but dropped most of their markups unless it's a Raptor, because we only got like 4 for an entire year. So certain things like that. Same thing with like the Ranger Raptor. And it's kind of everybody's like, I can't believe dealerships are doing this. But then you got to look at the manufacturers, right? They know how much interest there is. And they're like, nah, we're going to let you guys have 3 of these for an entire year, right? So what's the natural thing to do? Because we've got people coming out of the woodwork saying, I'll pay more than the other person. I'll pay more than this. And it's like, that's how half these markups come up, is because basically we start getting thrown offers long before you can even spec one of these out and order it. And it's like, all right, well, hey, people are willing to spend $25K over for a Raptor R, and multiple of them. That's our markup. So it's like, you start to do stuff like that, and it's like, everybody's like, I can't believe these dealers. It started consumer driven by people with stupid amounts of money.
It still is.
It's like the housing market. It's the same thing.
Exactly. People are driving it because they're refusing to not buy them. People are still buying them. They're still shelling out ridiculous amounts of money for these things. So I get from the manufacturer, from the dealership side, why would you stop doing it when you're making all this extra money for nothing?
Well, and that's the thing. I get abrasive sometimes when I talk to a customer, and they're like, I can't believe you would do something. I can't believe you won't give me a discount on this Bronco. And it's like, folks, I'm offering it to you at MSRP. I am a for-profit business. I have lights to keep on, employees to pay. Like, I'm not a nonprofit. You know what I mean? I'm not the first store down the street. Like, this is a massive operation. We employ 350 people in this place. We're a major distribution hub for parts for Ford. Like, it is not cheap to run a place like this. So I tell people that all the time. Like, profit is not a bad word. Now, to an extent, some dealerships out there get a little ridiculous, right? When you start seeing $100,000 markups on Z06s or different Lexus
Raptor
or Porsche, like those. For us, when we were running the 25K on them, that was because people were throwing money at us for deposits, saying, "I want this and I'll pay this." It was that simple. But it's just, and that's not an enthusiast car. The damn thing's already a six-figure car. You know what I mean? It's already a $115,000 vehicle. Like, it's not your normal enthusiast vehicle. But hell, even a Bronco Raptor's $90-some thousand now, spec'd out minimally. It's nuts. But yeah, a lot of this became consumer driven, and people want to demonize the dealerships, and they don't realize where it came from. It was what the people wanted to pay to get it first, and that's what it came down to.
So I agree with the majority of that. The one thing that I don't like, and it's not all dealerships, just coming from looking at a couple different vehicles, a couple different trucks, 4Runner, the Frontier in Tacoma, I had dealerships telling me that, there's a $2,000 markup, which adjusted market, I would never pay. I mean, I paid less than sticker. I paid, I think, like $1,300 or $1,500 off for mine, and no addendums, no packages. But they try to throw on the $2-3 markup for a regular car. Then they hit you with a delivery package. Oh, well, we installed tint. We had to, buff and shine the car because of transport. And some of the things from these dealerships were actually like in the shipping, on the sticker, things that are covered during delivery. Oh, the guy scratched the corner with the paint. Like, I don't want that car then. If that car needed paint because somebody messed it up, that's a damaged car.
And here's something fun I learned. Like
Sentras, Corollas.
I just learned this about 2 weeks ago at a dealership leadership meeting with the owners and everything like that. In the state of Florida, this is just Florida. Every state's a little different. In the state of Florida, you do not have to disclose a new vehicle having had any sort of damage pre-delivery if it's less than $650 worth of damage. Also,
if it doesn't qualify for a crash report,
it could have. Well, you don't have to qualify any of that, but you just simply don't have to mention if it's under $650 worth of value. Now, if it's a front fascia or rear fascia, an easily detachable part that got completely ripped off and replaced and repainted, doesn't count. It has to be actual body damage, structure damage, things of that nature, broken glass, or fender, or hood, or the front or rear fascia. They don't count. They can be thousands of dollars in damage, and it does not have to be disclosed to a consumer. But the one thing you did mention that I find funny for a dealership trying to charge for is transport damage. When we get that, we charge the transport company for any repairs that need to be done. If there's a scratch, the littlest thing, we charge the transport company, and they pay it quickly because they want that gone, and they don't want to talk about it.
They don't want it as a contract. Right.
To pass that on to a customer is absolutely asinine. I just can't imagine that.
So
I mean,
that was the reason
absolutely
crazy.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Nick. So if a vehicle is damaged in transport, does that get reported to Carfax, and are customers able to see that on Carfax?
No. So the only thing that gets reported to Carfax or AutoCheck is something run through a body shop, specifically notated as an accident, or if there's a police report file. That's why so many people are like, I never had an accident. Why are you telling me my car had an accident? Well, folks, did anything ever happen to where you involved a police report or you made a claim on your insurance? Shopping cart hit it, something like that. Well, unfortunately, that now shows, and the next consumer doesn't care what it was. They see an accident. So we have to explain that often. But yeah, it can be some really stupid things, but anything like that pre-delivery, because it doesn't have an owner, is going to be handled kind of, under, and it's just going to get taken care of, fixed, repaired, and if it meets the criteria, we tell the customer. But that kind of damage is kind of rare. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen maybe 1 or 2 cars in the year and something I've been with Ford that have had some more substantial damage. I mean, I saw more damage from the hurricane on our lot than I have seen from transport damage. So,
funny story. I'll be quick. I was looking at a Dodge Durango at a local dealership, and the one that I wanted, spec'd out, everything was there. It was used. Was at a body shop for a scratch on a door. They showed me some pictures of like bullshit. They ended up showing me documents, and my wife works in the automotive insurance industry. So her and I are reading it over, and you see that there was basically the front end didn't get a new bumper, but it got a lot of repairs. And there was, like you said, there was no Carfax, there was nothing on auto check. Granted, this was within days. I ended up finding out later after I passed it. It was a dealer. It was a parking lot crash. They hit another car. Both cars got sent out. I noticed a spider webbing on the front bumper, but they were failing to disclose that. And through my research, like you brought up, Nick, anything under 650 on a law enforcement standpoint or for a crash doesn't require a crash report. Anything over that number does, which is why I made the assumption. But so that dealers can be shady. Not all of them are. But yeah, there's some shady dealers nationwide or internationally at that point that will pass stuff on to the consumer, and it might apply to 5% of their cars, but they'll pass it on trying to make $100 a person or whatever that.
Well, and the one nice thing for anybody listening that's worried about something like this, most manufacturers, Ford is one of these. If damage is done before it's ever been sold to a consumer, it can't just go to a little mom and pop or your paintless dent guy. We have to send it out to our certified Ford body shop for proper inspection, repair, and preparation for sale. So it's one of those, they don't let you just bubble gum and glue it back together. It has to be done through a body shop, which from a sales perspective is a pain because body shops are jammed up, backed up, takes forever. So our inventory is a little tied up, but it is a very proper and correct fix when something like that does have to happen. So for anybody listening, if you are concerned about that, just know most manufacturers require a very professional, very factory type fix and finish. So
nice, good to know. All right, let's take a brief moment and talk about the beers that we've been drinking. I'll start off. So the Watermelon Girlfriend from Prairie Artisan, surprisingly really good. It was very refreshing. I'm Hispanic, obviously, so usually like in the Hispanic community, like we actually eat.
You
like,
are?
Yes, surprisingly. Shocker. But we actually eat fruit with like salt, like depending on how the fruit actually is, right? So this actually kind of like
or tahini.
Yeah, or tahini for a lot of Mexican people.
Tahini.
But yeah, like it was really, really refreshing. I actually really enjoyed it. I'm probably gonna see. I actually bought this at Total Wine. So I'm gonna see if they have like a 4-pack of it because this is actually really good, really refreshing, especially during the summertime here in Florida. The other one, the Wake Up Worldwide Stout, really good. Worldwide Stout is a phenomenal beer. I was actually kind of surprised because it tasted a little bit more like coffee than what I'm used to, because they're usually more like very like boozy stout beers, obviously. But something that caught my attention is that it actually has organic Nicaraguan finca de Terito cold pressed coffee. So it's actually from like I'm Nicaraguan, so it's got cold pressed Nicaraguan coffee in it. So I'm surprised, but it's really good. It's really good. I actually really like it. Mike, what are you drinking? Or how are your beers?
That's awesome. I didn't when you mentioned the beer earlier, I didn't realize that was a variant of the regular Worldwide Stout. I missed the coffee part. So that sounds really good. So the Geezer Pleaser, with this guy right here, it's an American lager. There's not really a whole lot to talk about. It's clean, it's crisp. It's 4.5% alcohol, so it's really it's easy to get down. It's kind of a beer flavored beer. I will say that it does have a kind of a nice hop characteristic to it. So it's got a little bit of bite closer to like a Pilsner style over a lager. It's not hoppy by any means, but it definitely has a little bit of body and a little bit of a bitterness to it. But that one's pretty good. And then I've been sipping on the Ace Pear here as well. I really like Ace. Their cider, they're out of California, so you can buy this at most of your beer stores and stuff. But this is their pear version of it. It's just really light, refreshing. The good thing about these is they're pretty low in sugar content versus like your basic Angry Orchards or your Cider Boys. A couple of the other ones, those have a ton of sugar in them. So this is kind of on the drier end, but it's still a little bit of sweetness to the pear, but it's really good. It's fresh. So, Carmelo?
So the BA Rocket Fuel to Mead, shout out to one of my coworkers who grabbed some last time she was up there. This stuff is good. I mean, you can definitely taste the bourbon barrels that was aged 17 months in. The red currant, the cherry, the apricot mead. I mean, it's good. It's smooth. It's 18.5%, which for as good as it is, there's no big hit. Typically, there's a hit in a drink like that, especially in a mead. But no, it's smooth. It's good. Nick, how's your beer?
It's going great. Speaking of the smooth, I mean that's like I was talking about earlier. That's one of the nice things about these hazy IPAs is the hazy aspect seems to just mellow and soften some of these double IPAs out so much. And I love the bitterness, but as much as it cuts some of that bitterness, it just smooths the whole thing out, and I feel like it brings that hop profile forward, and you get more of that hoppy flavor and not just that bitterness from it. I mean, it's solid. I'll admit, it's not the first time this week I've had one of these. I had one the other day just to kind of try one out because I couldn't let it sit in my fridge for 2 weeks and not try one.
Of course.
It's a solid choice. And then, I'll break into I popped the Great Lakes, but I'm not quite done the double IPA just yet. Now, the unfortunate part is you cannot get this in Florida. They do not distribute down here. But Great Lakes Brewery up in Cleveland makes some awesome beers. And this, for me, is like that quintessential, like you want to feel like it's Christmas time. This is it. I mean, there's some other good ones out there for the Christmas sales. Between this and the Southern Tier 2 Xmas are probably my two favorites, hands down, for Christmas stuff.
It's coming.
2 Xmas. Yeah, I get.
It's coming.
Thanks to Mike, I order, again, we talk about number 3 bottle shop down here in Cape Coral. And Brandon, the owner, and his father, great guys. I order my kegs through them. They're working on getting me a pumpkin keg right now for the holidays, for Halloween and such.
Hell yeah!
And I always get a Southern Tier 2 Xmas through them as well. But it's nice having a little taste of the holidays in the middle of summer in the absolutely brutal Satan's asshole heat we got going on right now. So
yeah, yeah, for real. So Mike, I have to ask: are we gonna get 2 Xmas this year because we missed out of it last year, right?
Listen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There was a snafu last year that happened, and I very, very readily made it not happen this year. So yes, I just finalized everything about a month ago, so we're good to go.
Okay.
We got plenty of 2 Xmas coming down our direction this year. So
just wanted to make sure because
I'll make sure you guys get some.
I was just making sure because I mean, look, like
I know
I went to number 3.
I broke a lot of hearts last year.
Yeah, I went to number 3. It was like maybe like November, December, and I was talking with Brandon, and he had a keg of 2 Xmas, or a bottle. No, it was a keg, but it was last year's or the year before, so it wasn't the 22. It was the 21.
Luckily.
Yeah, so I was like,
we got fresh 2 Xmas. And to Nick's point, I actually have some pumpkin beer lined up in my fridge right now, but it has just been so freaking hot. I'm not ready for it.
Yeah,
it's gonna hit. I just looked at the weather today. We're gonna hit I think Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday this week. It's gonna hit 97. So it's just not fun.
Well,
not fun.
And that's the actual. The feel like down here is brutal.
Oh yeah, because the humidity. Yeah, it just punches you in the face when you walk out the door. It's awful.
It's like walking through like soup.
But, yeah, for sure.
Walking through soup. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. All right, so since we're in the topic of beer, what was the one beer that got you guys into craft beer?
Eric, start it off, buddy.
All right.
What is your one beer?
The one beer that got me into beers was it was at Fort Myers Brewing Company. We actually, I think me, Mike, and Nick used to hang out there like once a month or something. But what was the one beer? I forgot what it was called. It was like Cypress Red, I think it was called. Is that right? Mike, you might remember the name. I think it was Cypress Red.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah,
that sounds right. Because it was named after their dog, wasn't it?
Yes.
They're Newfoundland.
Yeah, yeah. So that was actually the beer that got me into craft beer. But I'm actually going to admit, so out of all the times that we hung out or started to hang out, because like obviously we talked about like in the first podcast that we kind of met together at a barbecue in Sanibel, but we really started to hang out more often at Fort Myers Brewing Company. Um, I did not like craft beer for like the first like 5 or 6 months that I was like hanging out with you guys. I was like, man, this shit sucks. This is horrible. This is like the worst beer I've ever tried. And back then I wasn't into craft beer. And then one day I went in and I ordered a Cypress Red, and I was like, took a sip of it, and I was like, man, this beer tastes a lot better than what I'm used to it. So that's actually when I realized like, oh, this is good stuff. So then that's the beer that got me into craft beer. Yeah, Mike.
Nice. So I'm gonna go on a tangent probably with this. So feel free to stop me. This is what I do. This is what I do for a living. But to Eric's point, this is my favorite. This is my favorite thing to tell people. When you're talking to somebody about craft beer and you're sampling things, and they're like, "I'm just really not a beer person." Well, bullshit. You are. You just haven't found the right one yet.
Exactly.
There's so many different styles of beer. There's so many different. I mean, just in the IPA category, which is crazy to think about it. There's so many different kinds of IPAs. Mm-hmm. If you don't typically like IPAs, I guarantee that someone can find one for you. But anyway, that's long tangent over. But yeah, so the first beer that really got me into craft beer, I was in the restaurant industry for 11 years. I drank a lot of domestic beer. Drank some cheap rock gut whiskeys and bourbons. I started drinking darker beer, Yingling, Amberbach. I was really into Newcastle for a while, back before, when it was actually an import beer, and it actually tasted good. When they started brewing it in the States, it really sucked. But right after Newcastle, we used to hang out at World of Beer in Bell Tower. Back credit where credit's due. It was one of the best craft beer spots in our areas. I mean, they had the biggest selection. They had the cool stuff. They had a ton of people there all the time. It was a really good time. So I had a lot of friends that hung. Yep, had a lot of friends that hung out there all the time. So the first beer that I ever had there that I was like, holy crap! Like craft beer is awesome. Tommy Knocker. Nut Brown Ale. It's Tommy Knocker's a brewery out of Colorado. And like I said, I drank a lot of Newcastle. It was probably a very easy transition from Newcastle being a brown ale to the Tommy Knocker. But that was the first beer where I was like, holy crap, craft beer is really good. And then I started trying more things. I'm not going to lie, IPAs took me a while to get used to. You start on back then, we're talking 10, 12 years ago. Hoppy beer was hoppy beer. It was all West Coast. New England IPAs weren't really a thing yet. So IPAs were very bold and hoppy and piney, chewy. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff. But yeah, Tommy Knocker Nut Brown.
It's funny that you mentioned a Nut Brown Ale because this wasn't what got me into it. I'm just going to toss it out there. One of the first beers that I really liked after I started getting into craft was actually Samuel Smith's Nut Brown Ale.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's the thing. Most people gravitate towards like the sweeter, maltier beers when they're transitioning to craft beer, if you will.
Yeah.
But Carmelo, what's your beverage?
So mine. I mean, I wasn't a big drinker back then, but I was really into like lighter beers, Heineken Light, Stella, more of the lighter imports. But then I had my first IPA that I liked. I had a couple that I wasn't a big fan of. Had a buddy that was big into porters, it wasn't my thing. And then I had the Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA, and I want to say it was like 15, 16 before they stabilized distribution. I got a 4-pack and fell in love. Then it was touch and go for a while, and I think it was Sebring, where I found some, and then you guys introduced me to the all day IPA.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure you hooked us up with like a case, or I don't know. It seemed like an unlimited amount, and I could transition, and that's those are the two that really got me into beer. I was more of a liquor guy, more wine, and then
I have to interrupt you, Carmelo, because I actually have to give a huge shout out to Mike, because The first year, so little fun fact about Sebring. Me and Mike started off the whole Sebring tradition that we actually have today. So me and Mike went to the first race. I think it was 2015, right? Was it the first race that we went to 2015? 2015, 2016 was the first year that we went.
So I think it's 2015.
Yeah,
I think it's 2015 because it should be 9 years next year, but minus one for COVID.
Minus one for COVID. So, yeah. So, but that year you bought like 2 cases of all the IPA. At that point in time, I was still relatively new to craft beer, and I was not a fan of IPAs. I was like, man, IPAs are the worst. They're like super bitter. I don't like them. They're crappy beers. And then you're like, trust me, this is gonna be a really good beer. It's gonna be really refreshing, especially like if it's hot, whatever, dude. We downed like those 2 because they sell them in 15 packs, which is weird. Like it's not a 12 pack, it's a 15 pack, and we downed both 12 15 packs between the both of us. And I was like, holy shit, IPA is actually really good. So you and all the IPA got me into IPAs. So sorry, keep going,
I'll second it. Welcome. You're welcome. I remember when I switched over, they were ice cold. You guys, I came up a day late for Sebring. I want to say it was like 2017, 2018. And even though it's a little hoppy, has that hoppy taste on the end, that Aldi IPA was, phenomenal. So you work your magic here. You're good at what you do.
Thanks. Appreciate that, gents.
Yeah. So for me, the all day is phenomenal, but it's on the lighter trend. Like IPA is what transitioned me into craft, which shocked the shit out of me. I grew up, maybe not now that I think about it, because I grew up with a father who liked good liquor and stuff, and I'd have a cigar with him, with scotch, bourbons, cognacs. I think it was some bite. I got used to that. Drank a lot of wine growing up, with dinner and stuff like that. We talked about that before. And in college, I was in a fraternity, so we'd have our house parties and stuff off campus at somebody's house, and it was all about, Milwaukee's Best, the Beast, Natty Light, whatever you were drinking, whatever garbage you were drinking to get through the beer pong. Yeah, I don't even know if we were spending money on that. But I got a job at a place called The Wine Merchant in Findlay, Ohio, where I went to school, University of Findlay. Awesome little shop. They were like a wine shop, obviously The Wine Merchant, everything from basic to some high-end stuff, locked away, a cool little cafe, but they also had a whole side of the little showroom that was all import and craft beer. And I got to start trying some stuff. And the first IPA I tried was like the be-all, end-all for me. Like, that was it. Hooked me. It was Stone's, just OG IPA. Like, Stone IPA was so bitter, was just, I don't know. And then I got the Ruination IPA, which was even more bitter. I guess that was their version of like a double. I don't know. And it all makes sense now because I've always loved black coffee, bitter, dark, and IPAs what hooked me. And then from there, it's just gone out of control with every craft I get my hands on and try, whether it's my wife buying it for the crazy fun label or me buying it for the style and the flavors. But yeah, man, it's something as simple as an old school, just original Stone IPA. That's what did it for me and got me going down that rabbit hole.
Nice. Stone is really good. They have good stuff.
Yeah, that's what it is, a classic.
Yeah, but I did have to ask too. So, is there a beer that you guys? It's like a memorable beer that stands out. I actually have one that I've never tried before, or I tried once, and I've tried to hunt down this brewery again, and I'm not able to find it because they're actually not in the US. It's a Danish one, but I'm probably butchering and pronouncing it incorrectly, but Tuol or Tuoi. Tuol is Danish.
It's Tuol.
Yeah, Tuol. Okay, yep. So they had a beer, and I tried this in Asheville, North Carolina. So Asheville has a place where it used to be a kind of like number 3, where it was like a beer kind of like a tap, and you would just like go in and just try different types of beer. But they actually have they're actually a brewery now. But and it was the Thirsty Monk. So the Thirsty Monk, when they used to just like kind of sell like just beers, I tried one from Tuol, and I remember the name of the beer, and to this day, like I would love to drink this beer again. But it was called the line of beer is called This is advertisement. So the beer itself was called Fuck Art. This is advertisement. And it was probably one of the best beers that I've ever tried. And mind you, this is back in 2016, 2017 when I tried it. So and I've never been able to find that brewery here, or like any one of that brewery's beers here in Florida ever again, which kind of sucks. Like, and I kind of wish I can find somewhere that actually sells it, because I want to try more of their stuff. It was really good.
That's it's funny the name of that. It reminds me of like a bad Japanese or Chinese translation into English, where it just when you translate it out, it's like, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, that's a pretty cool name though.
But I feel like they purposely named it that. Like on like I'll have to like hunt down through the thousands of pictures that I have like on my phone, but on like the description it says "fuck art, this is advertisement." So it's like actually like a line of beer that they had, but it was called "This is advertisement," and then the beer that they just so happened to have on tap was "fuck art." But yeah, it was super good. It was really fruity, really boozy. It was like 15 or 16% alcohol. It was up there in ABV, but it was super good. So Mike, do you have one that's pretty memorable and you would like to try again that you haven't been able to drink again?
Man, I've being in the industry as long as I have, I've got so many. Like, I've got so many beers that I remember trying and just being like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." I mean, I remember the first time I ever had
the most memorable or most memorable.
Man, it's tough. Like, that's tough. The most memorable beer that I wish I could get my hands on this, and it's funny because my daughter is named after the brewery, so kind of funny enough. But my wife went to Colorado with a friend of hers. This was probably early into my craft beer obsession. I don't even think I was in the industry yet, so probably mid 2000s, somewhere in there, late 2000s. It was a beer called the Beast. Let me see if I can find it. Nick, you'd appreciate this. It would probably make a really good tattoo. But it was it had like
with
this,
these guys.
yeah, exactly. So it had like this crazy dog. Here, I'm gonna show you a picture of it.
Crazy dog.
Here, I'm gonna pull up. I'll share a picture of it. This was probably one of the more memorable beers that I've had, just because I remember the beer was just phenomenal. But that's it right there. If you guys can see the screen, it's.
Oh yeah,
you see it, yeah. So it's cool. It's a Grand Cru, and I remember getting the bottle. She was like, "Yeah, this thing was crazy expensive. I wasn't really expecting to, but I'd already paid for it, so whatever." She brought it back from Colorado. I tried it. It's a Grand Cru, which is basically a like a very high ABV Belgian like strong ale, Belgian dark ale. It was phenomenal, like crazy red currant flavors, and like it was bourbon barrel aged, so you had sweet vanilla and like the notes of the oak. Like it was really good. That I wish that I could get my hands on that beer again. So if I had to pick one, that would be the one.
Because you always talk about trying to figure out your tattoo, you and your daughter, since that's her namesake brewery, a disservice if you don't get a tattoo based on that beer. Like, come on, man. Like, not the label, the beast's face and everything someplace. Like, come on, dude.
That's
a no-brainer.
That's not a bad idea.
That's very true. We're gonna, dude. If you want, I'll message Chris and he'll make it happen.
We got a
guy, Chris Crane. The dude's a beast.
No, he is a beast. I've got some ideas for what I want, but
I mean, he did a great job with with my interpretation of Fenrir. So,
dude,
that's that would not be a bad idea,
right?
But so, Carmelo, do you have a favorite, like a story that you just can't forget?
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, I think it was summer 21, shortly after, the pandemic, if you will, we went up, saw one of our best friends, Kelly, up in Minnesota, and we went. There were still restrictions depending on where you were in the country, and so we went and we did a brewery tour. And I can't recall. I don't believe we had the kids with us. I think we were just gone for a weekend or a couple days. Maybe we did. But we went to a bunch of different breweries in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and a lot of them do, a share, they'll a partnership with other places. So we hit up a dozen or so breweries and a couple of the smaller, local bars from Minneapolis all the way up to Lake Superior. And on our way back, we stopped at this little deli, and they had a beer on tap from a small company called the Brewing Project. Or I'm sorry, from Project Brewing, out of Wisconsin. And they, and the weird thing was I tried it. I had a sample, and it was the Puff Tart XL. So it was slightly sweet, but not abundantly sweet. But there was also like a heavy fruit, almost like you'd get in a body of wine taste to it. So it wasn't very hoppy. And I mean, over the past few podcasts, I think you guys know, but I think our viewers as well know that I tend to be on the sweeter side and less hoppy.
You're sweet,
so,
all right.
You're so sweet.
Well, like, sweet and thick, right? So yeah, I mean, so I had this, Brewing Project beer, the Puff Tart XL. It was like a mango pineapple, and I remember our friend Kelly that was with us. She got it as well, and it was phenomenal. I don't know if it was the tap. It was. I know when we talked to the server, she was explaining that they just got it in. It was just barreled, so it was fresh, and I've had a few variations. They're very hard to get distribution down anywhere outside of the Midwest. Luckily, our friends at Number Three get something from them from time to time that I typically just buy out and bowl. But that was my most memorable beer. I just remember sitting there and talking, just being surprised by the flavors. Like, yeah, you can read the flavors on a menu, but a lot of times if you read an Imperial Stout or an IPA, even a sour, you're expecting like the flavors to be very light, more or less like but this was like it was infused. It was phenomenal.
Nice.
So
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Nick, what do you got?
So for me, mine is a memorable beer based on a story of me thinking I was dying. I will never forget this, and it's one of my favorite. So, like I mentioned, the Great Lakes and the Christmas aspect, right? I love this. My favorite Christmas time beer, though, it is a Christmas beer, technically, or a Christmas holiday beer, is from Trogs. It is their Mad Elf Ale, and it is a honey and cherry ale.
Oh,
which doesn't sound very Christmassy, but it's got an elf on it. It's like a 11.5% ABV. It's hefty, right? And unfortunately, Trogs does not send beer to Florida. It's another one of those distribution problems. Like, I only get it when I travel north for the holidays, whether I go to Ohio, see my wife's family, or now we go to Tennessee thanks to retirement. So we'll see if I can find it up there. But God, I was in college. Probably early 20 teens, something along those lines. And my mother bought me a Christmas present. She found a bottle of Trogs Mad Elf. It's a 3-liter bottle, or about 0.8 gallons. I mean, it's on display in my kitchen with the box and the bottle. It's massive. So pretty high ABV for a beer, sweet and sugary, but to me delicious. I love it, absolutely love it. So back when we lived in Jersey, my mother would have holiday parties, and she always made these different things with fruit floating in it, with alcohol and stuff like that. Well, one year when she was done, she jarred all the cherries from it. So me and a buddy pretty much exclusively drank almost 3 liters of this beer at a New Year's Eve party. And then a friend of mine showed up that stopped at my house and got a jar of cherries for my mother to bring to our New Year's Eve party. Now, at this point, I'm pretty obliterated, and we start eating these liquor-soaked cherries, right? Now, it's up northeast. It's snowy. We were pretty gone. And at one point, I just feel sick. I run outside the porch, and I start to puke. And it's blood red. And I'm not thinking of the cherries. I just think I'm bleeding internally, and I'm dying in the middle of the snow out on my buddy's porch, one of my best friends from high school. Like, I swore I was dying as I just saw red coming up. It couldn't stop. I had no idea what was going on. And I'm out there. I'm pretty sure I'm near tears. And somebody has to remind me, dude, you've been eating a bunch of cherries. This is not blood. You're fine. Like, somebody had to actually come comfort me and slow me down. Like, you're not dying. You're just really drunk, and you puked up a lot of cherry juice. And that will forever be still to this day one of my favorite beers for Christmas time. But my most memorable beer because of that one moment, that one New Year's Eve in like, God, 2011, maybe 2010, something along those lines. It was
awesome.
Something. Yeah. Maybe.
So you went a different direction with it, and now that you mention it, I also have a beer that reminds me of a very terrible time, but it was also awesome time. Does anybody, Carmelo, Eric, do you guys have a beer that reminds you of just something awful, or should I just throw mine out there?
Throw yours out there. Maybe when I hear your story, I'll remember something.
So you can throw yours out there.
All right, so
I hear someone laughing in the background, so it's got to be good.
I'm gonna have to remember shenanigans going on.
A friend, Brittany.
So
just giggling away.
There was once again when I got into craft beer, I started going ape shit. Right, started buying all these different beers, all these different styles, all this crazy stuff. I remember picking up I think they sold them in 6-packs. It was a brewery called Flying Dog. I can't remember where they're from, and I should probably look that up. But they had let me look it up.
I think they're Maryland or Delaware. They're somewhere up from
there,
where I'm from.
But they had a barley wine, and I want to say it's called a Horn Dog, I believe.
Well, because they also had Raging Bitch series, which was really good too. I've had those as well.
So it's called Horn Dog. I'm looking it up right now. So it's the Horn Dog barley wine. So for those of you that barley wines are really high ABV. They're also really, really sweet. They're borderline what you're talking about with the Mad Elf. I mean, it's a very similar style. I just decided one night, I got home from work and I wolfed down just about the whole 6-pack by myself.
That's dangerous.
The next day, we had to drive, my wife and I, girlfriend at the time, had to drive up to St. Augustine for a friend of ours' wedding. It was a Friday. The wedding was the whole weekend. It was a Friday, Saturday, drive home Sunday type thing. And I remember I don't know if it was the beer or if I got a stomach virus, but it was the worst following 3 days of my entire life. Just both directions, 3 days at a wedding in St. Augustine, like on the beach. It was like with all of our friends from work and a bunch of it was terrible. And I still to this day remember. And like I said, I don't know if it was the beer's fault. Obviously, that didn't help drinking a whole 6-pack of them. But I think it was just timing. I think I got a stomach virus right at the same time. And it was, I will always remember that.
Like, okay, here's the question. Have you had that beer since then?
I have not.
Probably
in fact,
not.
I really,
You know what?
Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I really don't like barley wines since that happened. I really don't. Not a fan.
I was actually going to say that because as far as I know, I've mentioned, so we typically, like right before Sebring, we get together and we start talking about the beers that we're going to bring. So I had a beer from Sierra Nevada that just so happened to have been a barley wine. I think it was Bigfoot, like a Sierra Nevada's Bigfoot beer. And you're like, no, I don't drink barley wines.
Nah, man.
And you know what? The story you just said just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So
dude,
now I know why you don't drink barley wines. Oh my God. That's so great.
Yeah. That's similar to why my wife won't drink Van Gogh double espresso vodka anymore. Thankfully for me, I knew what caused my issue that freaked me out. And I still drink Trogue's Mad Elf every chance I get.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I lost my taste for it, which I really didn't have a taste for it to begin with. Barley wines are a very peculiar style of beer. Bourbon County releases one every couple of years or so for the on Black Friday for Goose Island, Bourbon County. And, I drank one of theirs a couple of years ago, and I was just like, man, this just brings me back to St. Augustine and living on a toilet.
There's one my wife gets every now and then. I can't remember who makes it. It's a bigger brewery, but it's solely because there's a Bernie's Mountain Dog on it. Which anyone that's seen the head pop up every now and then in the video knows we've got a couple Bernie's Mountain Dogs over our marriage. So we've got one on display, but it's just because there's a burner on it. She buys it every now and then.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So any of our followers that are watching this thus far, put in the comments what your either favorite beer because you love it, and it's just an amazing beer that you remember. Or obviously, also put in the comments if you have a terrible situation that you remember because of beer.
Yeah.
Love to hear about it.
And as well, since we have a beer professional on our podcast, if you've got some flavors you like and you're not like maybe a craft beer person, like throw out there what it is you'd like to taste, and I bet you Mike can find it for you. So,
I'll do my best.
100%. All right, well, that's all the time that we have here today. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to savor your brews and hit the road responsibly. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe. We definitely want to grow the channel or the podcast. Let us know how we're doing in the comments. Actually, go ahead and add in the comments below how we're actually doing so far. Let us know what we can change. Let us know what topics you would like us to talk about, or just what content you guys want to hear. But anyways, again, that's all the time that we have for today. Cheers to booze and cars, and we'll see you guys next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.